forward the idea that we together make that which is sacred. And that's what we work on here, and we want to be that community that takes care of each other and is open and accepting. And that's what I'm going to be talking about a little bit today as I try to talk about the idea of mysticism. If everyone now would look to your right and your left and say, I'm so glad you're here today. I'm so glad y'all are here today. All right. That's what we like. Yes, we create a community of love and justice, and we have some fun doing it as well. I am so glad everyone is here today. And hey, you ready to take it away with some music? All right.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. How's it going? Hi. I've seen some of you before. I'm Mikey, and this is my friend McKain, and we're going to play some tunes for you.
This first one we're going to do is a song that I wrote. I wrote it driving through Wyoming on tour, so it's a little bit about a lake in Wyoming, but it's also about missing people that you're close to. So if there's anyone in your life that you're missing and you just kind of want to hold them in your heart for a few minutes, here's an invitation. Wanted my ripples to run into yours since the last Sometimes when I'm lonesome, I think of you sitting and watching the fish jump out on Lake Marie. You set loose a stone and you wait for the ripples to flow down the river and out to the sea. You stare at the mountains and the sun-setting sky as the rain starts to silently fall. Then you look all around as the water runs down and you worry someday I won't miss you at all. And it's raining on Lake Marie. Raining on Lake Marie. And if you ever go back to Medicine Bow, bring back a raindrop for me, and I'll know it's been raining on Lake Marie. It's still raining on Lake Marie.
Very nice. Thanks so much. Each week when we gather, in our tradition, we recite one of our 8 Unitarian Universalist principles, or one of the 4 aspirations of First Unitarian Society. This week, we light our chalice for our Aspiration 3. We aspire to pursue wisdom through reason, science, art, and the stories of civilizations. Thank you so much, Paul. And if everyone will rise, please, we will do our first congregational song. The words will be right up here.
This is a song that I learned from an artist named Gina Salah through an organization that does youth empowerment programs. And it's really simple. The only words are, I love you just as you are. But we're going to say the first part, I love you, a bunch of times. So I'll just sing the whole thing because I think you'll catch on really, really quick. It goes like this. I love you, 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 I love you just as you are. I love you, 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 I love you just as you are. I love you, 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 I love you just as you. You can sing it to your neighbor if you want. I love you, 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 I love you just as you are.
Wow, thank you. That's lovely, but stay standing, please. I got caught up in it too, but we have to repeat our covenant, which I'm hoping we get the words on the screen. Is that part of it working? Yay! All right, if we repeat with me, please. Love is the spirit of this place, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated. There we go. No, we're not as good at this as the Episcopalians or the Methodists, with the hopping up and down part. But, that's okay. That's okay. But we love ourselves just as we are. First Unitarian Society is a humanist congregation. That means that we are here for each other, for our neighbors, and our planet. When we gather on Sundays, we take a few moments to reflect on the human experience, the joys, sorrows, and the milestones. We do this in order to take advantage of a few moments in this quiet space to think about what it truly means to be human and what we can do in the world. I want to thank all of our volunteers. We hosted a memorial for Jan Ron on Friday, and we had this place was full, and thanks so much for all of our volunteers for helping out to make that a special experience. we take a moment now to think about the joys and the sorrows and those humans who try to make this world a better place. Got another song for you today.
We thought we had more time than this.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. I lost my guitars. Oh, there she is. There they are.
Oh, no.
We have a pick. This is kind of a spaceholder name, tune us after West Denmark. So if you have a better name for this tune, come find me afterwards. This is a tune I wrote kind of a little bit based on Shetland fiddle traditions, but if you played it for a Shetland fiddler, they'd be like, how? What are you talking about? So that's this tune.
Thank you so much. another thing we try to do as a humanist congregation is be human, so it's quite all right to lose one's contact. Our theme for the month of January is the gift of liberation. Now today, which is first Sunday of the year, isn't it? I want to talk about personal liberation. I want to approach thinking about this first by looking at some of the gauges, if you will, of what's been going on in American culture itself, our contemporary American culture that we're trying to live through today. I'm not going to talk about the wars and immigration and that kind of thing. I want to look a little bit at the more subtle changes within our civilization, if we can really call it that. As I said last week, for me anyway, one way to keep my head from exploding is to focus on what I can do in this huge world of all kinds of problems. Do you know what the #1 fast food product bought in America was last year? Big Mac. Big Mac still is in the top 10, believe it or not. Cinnabon rolls. Domino's came in at a sad #2. But there is something there. I just don't know what. The humanist philosopher John Dewey once wrote that the business of religion is to make us conscious of our identification with humanity at large and to recognize our knowledge and faith and ideals as the product of the cooperative operations of human beings living together. Notice how much community is in those words. Now, two big things as Dewey saw it: to make us conscious of our identification with humanity at large and to recognize our knowledge and faith and ideals as the products of the cooperative operations of human beings living together. Meaning, in other words, we are social animals whose ideas generate from the fact that we are living as social animals. I think Dewey's right about all of that, yet it seems true that the usual way we human beings reason is from our personalities to our ideas. By which I mean that people who live in fear communicate fear. They create scenarios and stories of fear. People with vision and courage communicate vision and courage. Yet there's the other thing we have out here, kind of as an outlier, but it makes a lot of difference, or I hope I'm going to convince you of that today, and that is the mystical experience. Now, as John Dewey would have been quick to point out, mysticism is experience. He was all about experience. Education is experience. Going in nature is experience. Religion is experience. Everything is experience, and a mystical experience is a personal, subjective experience, right? Dewey didn't see anything supernatural at all in a mystical experience. He saw mystical experiences as human experiences growing out of our collective human consciousness. Now, we all know a mystical experience is subjective. It's a very personal experience. Yet Dewey argued the point of mystical experience for us is to bring that experience back into the collective, the human collective consciousness, as a contribution to better society. You don't just sit out there on mountains and have experiences. You come back down the mountain to share with others. But before I get there, I want to think about a couple other things about our culture besides Cinnabon rolls. Take, for example, an article from the January Atlantic Monthly. Why is parenting so hard these days in the richest country in the world? Here in the U.S., facility structures all across our culture are under extreme pressure, and parents and children are the first to fall victim to this angst. This is what many families carry with them today. And this from the Brookings Institute. Before the virus, the U.S. boasted robust stock markets and record low levels of unemployment, yet 20% of prime-aged males were out of the labor force. From 2005 to 2019, an average of 70,000 Americans died annually from deaths of despair. That's suicide, drug overdose, and alcohol poisoning. These deaths are concentrated among less than college-educated middle-aged whites, with those out of the labor force disproportionately represented. Low-income minorities are significantly more optimistic than whites and much less likely to die of these deaths. Brookings Institute concludes this from that. This despair reflects the decline of the white working class. It contributes to our decreasing geographic mobility and has political spillovers. Counties with more respondents reporting lost hope in the years before 2016 were more likely to vote for Trump. Now, another thing about American psyche here is what's known as the Great Dechurching that I've talked quite a bit about. It's the spiritual but not really religious phenomenon, SBNRs, as they're being called nowadays. Now, one of the interesting things about this group is how the Great Dechurching is playing out. 20 years ago, we thought that everyone would become a liberal. Well, that didn't happen. Guess what, right? So 30 years ago, if someone stopped going to church, the most likely reason was a growing skepticism about what was going on there. The old model led many to think that more and more people would become Unitarian Universalists or humanists or something like that. But it didn't happen, and why is a good question. Now, my suspicion is that the reason for most people leaving religious institutions is not skepticism, but boredom. The skepticism that we religious liberals thought would lead to people choosing creedless traditions such as ours has actually led to a cafeteria-style view of religions. At the moment, according to Pew, who does a lot of research on this, 22% of Americans are categorized as spiritual but not religious, SBNRs, because they say they think of themselves as spiritual or they consider spirituality very important in their lives, but they neither think of themselves as religious nor say religion is important. 58% of Americans fall into the net religious category. Of those, 48% go to church and consider religion important. 10% say religion is not important, they are spiritual, but practicing. And then there's this third group, is around 21% of Americans are categorized as neither spiritual nor religious because they don't think of themselves as spiritual, don't think of themselves as religious, don't consider spirituality very important in their lives, and don't consider religion very important at all. Now, if you begin looking at the bar graphs, we see some very odd things happening. And yes, statisticians will quickly, and sociologists will quickly see that the way the questions are being asked are a little odd, actually, not in the way that I think we would ask them. But, for example, a huge number of people who claim Christianity as their religion believe in reincarnation. Now, reincarnation is heresy in Christianity. The Pope will tell you that. I'll tell you that, okay? My guess is that many Christians have decided that traditional teachings about an afterlife just don't make sense. Where's heaven? Where's hell? And so they've begun to say, well, I think I'm going to think about this science stuff and see if I can come up with another reason for an afterlife. And I think that may be the reason. Paradoxically, people are making their Christianity make sense to them, even if it doesn't make sense within the religious tradition they happen to be practicing. Kind of interesting, and we didn't see that one coming, but probably we should, because Cinnabons are the biggest selling item in America. Now, do hear me, I'm not condemning the mixing of religious ideas. The KFC bowl for $3 where you get a pound of food is the American way. We just throw stuff together and it's yummy. We don't worry about it being logical or good for us. Now, philosophically, I follow John Dewey in that I am a pragmatist, and for pragmatists, ideas are tools. If an idea works, it's true, and it's right, and you go right ahead doing it. I know that's a little bit radical for some people, but I do believe it's true. It explains how people make it through life. Yet, as we look at some of the gauges on our culture, what we're seeing is a continuation of Protestant Christianity, I would say, by other means. Protestants continue to protest, and they continue to insist that the individual has the final say of religious conscience, something we've been about forever. Which may be leading to something else. An article from the Guardian newspaper in the UK has this headline: "The zeitgeist is changing. A strange romantic backlash to the tech era looms." Now, that caught my attention, so I had to read it. Now, this is romantic in the case of the European romantic movement, something that we generally call transcendentalism here in the U.S., but it was a reaction against the Enlightenment, reason, science, and logic, and all of that. Now, the author ends his essay this way. He says, "The modern creative class, beleaguered enough, barraged by 2 decades of digital technology that has radically cheapened music, television, and cinema, is ready for combat, as the successful writers and actors strikes demonstrated earlier this year. Newer writing platforms like Substack promise a discursive, algorithm-free mode of communication with the glorious, shaggy, and strange-finding new readers. Naturally, in the romantic tradition, Substack elevates the individual. Now, for now, rapacious tech still has a mass buy-in," he says. "Smartphones are ubiquitous. Facebook, Apple, Amazon, and Google are hegemonic. Mark Zuckerberg scopes his pharaonic Hawaii compound." Yeah, this guy's good. I've never seen pharaonic used as an adjective before. "He and his ilk own the present. Whether they own the future, furthermore, is no longer clear. Generational change is hard on the incumbents, and romanticism won't hold still. It promises, at the minimum, a wild and unsteady flame. What it burns is still anyone's guess." Yeah, let's think about this for a moment. Because Romanticism, in its first incarnation in Europe, included both beautiful art and guillotines. So let's see what the BBC's Horrible Histories has to say about British Romanticism, shall we? This was a BBC production doing British history, and the interesting thing is they get the facts right, even though sometimes the music is a little, out of time. What would a return to Romanticism today mean? And is it happening? Is the question I'm thinking about. Well, you heard it here first. Christian Bale teams up with Batman co-star in Bride of Frankenstein remake. A new romanticism? Do you think they'll get the Frankenstein right? Don't know. Let's look at the cannabis law phenomenon that's going on about romanticism, shall we? I can't even get couldn't find an up-to-date illustration because this is changing so fast in the country. It's sweeping the country. Again, is it a new romanticism? Don't know. My old teacher of poetry, Allen Ginsberg, certainly saw a connection between some substance use and religious experience and mystical experience. Yeah, he was out on the street a lot with various signs over time. Ginsberg let it out, shall we say. This is the tradition that I come out of, and it's now getting a little agey. But here's another gauge of the American psyche that I think is very important. Pew Research says that 49% of Americans today report having at least one mystical experience. 49%, almost half. Now, for context, in 1960, when it was really the high end of church attendance, in the U.S., only about 20% of Americans said they had had a mystical experience. So, what is changing? Is it that mystical experience and the growth of the spiritual but not religious is somehow related? Or is it just that the 60s happened? I don't really know. But something is in there about mysticism and romanticism, I do believe. As he told a story, Allen Ginsberg's call to be a poet was a mystical experience. He was reading William Blake one night aloud, and he heard Blake's voice taking over from his voice. And one aspect of a mystical experience is that it tends to be very important to the individual who has it, but other people, well, they don't really get it unless you communicate it very well, because mystical experiences, again, are subjective. But why do people want that experience? Why is it so convincing to have one, even though that other people say, well, meh? Besides being subjective and difficult to articulate, reports of mystical experiences usually mention three feelings that I think we will call religious or spiritual or whatever: oceanic boundlessness, ego dissolution, and universal interconnectedness. If you felt that, you know exactly what that means. These are the patterns that lead to a dissolution of self that many religious traditions consider to be the only way through the door into a broader conception of the universe. Also, there is what's known as a noetic quality to mystical experiences. You're convinced that you know something after you have one, even, again, if others won't listen. Which is why artists and mystics and such do like these so much, I think. Having a mystical experience can't be communicated, really. It's ineffable. You can't come up with the words. It's always spilling out. And that's certainly why I like it as an artist. In addition, there's what is known within this tradition of mystical experience from William Blake. And I'm going backwards here in time to kind of catch into this. But many people know this particular quote from William Blake. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man, sexist language, people, as it is, infinite. For people have closed themselves up till we see all things through narrow chinks in our cavern. Now, you know this if you were alive back in the days of the Doors. That's where they got their name, was from the William Blake quote about the doors of perception. Now, he says, and I think, and again, Jim Morrison was very into Ginsberg and Dylan and this sort of thing, but he never quite came up, I think, to the level of poet. But his rock lyrics are not bad. But he says, I'm talking to you, myself. Let's recreate the world. The palace of conception is burning. You know exactly what I do. You know exactly what I do. Everything. All right. Now, this is a tradition of mysticism that goes all the way back to Blake, and before that, of course. But I know where the Doors got the term doors, and that was from the Aldous Huxley book by that name. This tradition of mysticism goes back to Aldous Huxley, who is the one who really got the drugs idea mixed into it, although that had been, of course, part of the tradition all the way back. Another reason those romantics died young, of course, right? Now, drugs don't appear to have actually been the source of William Blake's mysticism. He seems to have had some other kinds of mental things going on. But there's William Blake, and the lines I've been quoting appear in a poem called The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. Blake's question in that work is this: how do we, creatures in the social bounds, how do we liberate our own minds? Back to my original point. How do we liberate our own minds? Blake's answer is mystical experience. And this is the page that he wrote, in which he writes those lines. They come at the very bottom of the page. Some of you know that Blake was a printer and did a lot of etching, and so his writing actually always appears in his handwriting with illustrations. Right? Now, I don't have the educational background to read the National Library of Medicine, but our ministerial intern back there, David Buckley, does, and he sent me an interesting article this week because he knew I was talking about mysticism. So let me look at this. He says, this is from the health thing. The mystical experience is I don't know about that stuff. The mystical experience is a potential psychological mechanism to influence outcome in psychedelic therapy. It includes features such as oceanic boundlessness, ego dissolution, and universal interconnectedness, which have been closely linked to both symptom reduction and improved quality of life. Blake would be proud, and so would Allen Ginsberg. Some of you know the history of this. We had a huge moral panic about psychedelics back in the 70s, and essentially all research, serious research, stopped. But it has now begun again because of these ideas and what it can do for us. Blake would be proud. The United States has always been a kind of a tragic, wacky place. We all know that. But is it getting more tragic and more wacky is the question. I'd like to think that we have indeed entered into a new romanticism. That article that I cited was by a Brit, but here in the U.S. we call Romanticism Transcendentalism, which, of course, is part of our religious tradition. For William Blake, a prophet is someone who sees deeply into the present, and that's important in the mystical way of thinking. A prophet is someone who sees the present clearly. It's not about the future, because the future is generated right now. Right? This is the seed. Right? Emerson agreed. Margaret Fuller agreed. Emily Dickinson agreed. As Blake phrased it, quote, to see a world in a grain of sand, in a heaven, in a wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. Are we in a new age of romanticism or transcendentalism 2.0? I don't know, really. I really don't. The first age of romanticism unlocked the concept of individualism in the Western world. Can we this time get a little closer to unlocking a communal consciousness? I don't know. As the Guardian article phrased it, romanticism won't hold still. It promises at the minimum a wild and unsteady flame. What it burns is still anyone's guess. But I think he's right. And Blake was also right. In all our existence, maybe it really is pure imagination. He thought so. The world itself doesn't exist except in our minds, or subjectivity. He saw sparkling trees. He saw angels hanging out on tree branches, shining. He saw tigers burning bright, as you know from the poem. All that's needed, he believed, was the cleansing of those doors of perception. What are those? The five senses, and then our moral law inside our head. And then, when we do that, as he said, everything is infinite. Let's sing a song.
Let's see. Okay, this is a group song.
All right. Let's stand.
So this comes from Sweet Honey in the Rock, and there's 3 parts to it. So I'll teach each of the parts and we can sing it all together. And I know there are some musical people in this room, so if you feel inspired to throw a harmony part in there or whatever, I'd say have at it. So the words are, we are the ones we've been waiting for. And each part will be some of those words, if not the whole phrase. We'll start with the lowest part. And if you feel inspired to keep singing the lowest part, just stay on it. It'll be great, but I'll move on to the next parts and we'll just slowly build them all together. So first part goes, we are the ones We are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. One more time. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. Keep it going if you like that part. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been Second part. We are the ones, we are the ones waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones waiting. Feel free to sing that second part if you want to. We are the ones, we are the ones waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones waiting. The third part. We are the ones we've been waiting for. 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 We are the ones we've been waiting for.
Good morning, everybody. John Lundquist here. I'm a member of the board. I'm treasurer of FUS, and I'm going to tell you in 2 minutes why I am grateful to call FUS my spiritual home. And I use that word, whatever it means. I'm not sure after that talk, but I like it. I'm first grateful to be part of a community of like-minded humanists. This is a rare place, I think we all know and appreciate. I'm also very grateful for the normally clear and inspiring talks that we hear from David. And I don't know if mysticism really lends itself to clear and inspiring, but I enjoyed the talk, notwithstanding. So I enjoy and am grateful for the music we have, Mike, and your guests. It's always awesome. And the last thing I want to mention is that I'm grateful for the spirit of volunteerism that we have here, both internally looking to make sure this place keeps running like it does for over 100 years, and external. With all of the social action stuff that goes on. I know everybody's very passionate. And my little piece, as we've talked about, is, the Ukraine project. A whole bunch of people signed up for that. We raised $65,000 in 2 months. So brought over 3 families, and maybe a 4th will follow. So it's really an impressive place to be, and we should all hopefully have a little gratitude about that. Which actually brings me to the point why I'm up here, and I'm going to read. This is required by David Breeden, that everybody that appears here read this. So, First Unitarian Society exists because of the generosity of its members and friends in time, talent, and treasure. This congregation is independently funded and democratically governed. And as treasurer, I want to reassure you that your money, whatever you donate, is wisely and conservatively guarded. We need your help to keep FUS healthy. The easiest way to give is to, I'm just going to say, use one of the electronic mediums you're all familiar with, or drop off a check. You can go to the website, you can do it any number of ways, but please consider donating something. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, John. Yes, how we keep up with our money is probably the only conservative thing we do, but after assembly today, those in the building can enjoy conversation, more of that, and a mini meal. Today we have tomato and fennel pork stew, bourbon glazed carrots, potato latkes with onion and chive sour cream, smoked salmon or applesauce. You get to choose your way of doing it. Also, there will be a quinoa vegetable salad. And kids, there's a kids eat first table. So that long line that sometimes develops, shoot through there and go on up to the front by the stage, and you will find grilled cheese sandwiches and sliced apples. Yeah, Active Voices and Climate Action Team here at FUS have planned 3 events focused on protecting Minnesota waters. Those are going to start next week, right? Is it next? It's next week, right? Yeah, next week. And go for 3 Sundays when we're going to be talking about this. We're going to have some wonderful guests to come in and talk, professionals who understand these things, so that, again, we can talk about the real problem. How do we fix what we can fix instead of wringing our hands and saying the world is burning down? Let's fix it, and we can do that. Today at noon, the young adults, YAAS group, will be having their mini meal together, so join in that group. And yeah, David, are you going to be with that group so we can follow the tall guy? Yeah? Are you going to be with the group? Follow the tall guy if you want to join in on that. Thanks a lot. Also, we have a UU Animal Action Team meeting today. That's at noon in the library. And a UAH task force. I think that's only for the task force. We have a bunch of committee meetings and such today, so join in that. Also, on Wednesday night, this coming Wednesday, January the 10th at 7, I'll be talking at Unity Church over in St. Paul at 7 p.m. about medical aid in dying. They've invited me to talk about the ethics of medical aid in dying, which I'll be doing at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night, so feel free to join in then. And you know what? I'm only mentioning about 20% of what's going on this coming week, so definitely sign up for our electronic version of especially our Friday update, when you can really learn about everything that's going on. So go online, sign up, go to firstunitarian.org and sign up there on the bottom, and then you will know all about what we are doing. Paul, ready to extinguish the chalice? If everyone will repeat with me, please, our extinguishing the chalice words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All of these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again. Take it away.
Kind friends all gathered round. There's something I would say that brings us all together here, has blessed us all today. Love has made a circle that holds us all inside, where strangers are as family, loneliness can't hide. You must give yourself Open eyes.